guys, and welcome back to the Motor Recon podcast. I'm your host, Adam. I'm joined again today by Rob. What we're going to do today is, just for the whole episode, we're going to look at sort of your bog standard basic little hatchbacks and compare all of them, but only the base spec ones. So it's probably sort of like bargain basement shopping, really.
Yeah, the idea behind this is essentially how much will you get if you're buying brand new for bottom spec. Basically, what is the cheapest options that most of the major manufacturers offer you? What will they give you for basically the least amount of money?
Yeah. Now, when we started this, we were looking at sort of like, we did take out the Nissan Micra. While it is the cheapest car Nissan make, the starting price was a little bit too high, and we think in this class in particular we're looking at today, a little bit big. It's sort of more a Fiesta-sized car.
That's easy to say. It's city car sort of territory, aren't you? Yeah. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah. So this is a couple of them you'll obviously all recognise. They're all well-known brands, but we're going to look at now. So we'll start off with one of our favourite brands probably, but not our favourite car in this list, the Ford Ka. Yeah,
and I would say right off the bat, this isn't a car that I personally would purchase.
No, me neither. None of these are.
Well, no, talking out of this entire list, I would say, out of this whole list, I probably wouldn't go for the car.
No, I think I'd go for the second one we're going to talk about. Yeah. But so, the Ford Ka, it is just a car. There's probably nothing special about it. I have driven a Ka, actually. It's not that bad, but the one you get for your base money is the Ka Plus Studio. Mm-hmm. Now, it's £11,300 on the road price. That includes your first year's tax, everything like that. So this is what you're going to have to be forking out for. And what do you get for your money? So, a 1.2 litre, 70 horsepower, little 4-cylinder engine with a 5-speed gearbox.
You'll realise when we look at some of these other cars in its price range, that's a little bit behind the curve, to be honest.
It is.
And for the base price, one of the other things you'll notice straight away is the interior feels very much last generation.
Yeah, so we're looking at this now. I happen to know that the 4K is being replaced soon. So I imagine at that point it will get the updated interior from probably the Fiesta or something like that.
Yeah, but we both recognise the interior as being very similar to, obviously, the ones we got in our Fiesta, bar some of the dial differences. But I mean, as in, the dashboard looks very reminiscent of ours. The centre console looks quite reminiscent as well. Yeah,
so it actually is the same gear stick completely. It's a very similar steering wheel, but with a few little bits missing.
Yeah.
However, so some of the standard features on this are very surprising for it being the absolute base spec. Mm-hmm. Some things you probably expect you don't get standard on even higher cars. Like my A3 didn't have it, and that was a 30-odd grand car.
Yeah.
So looking at this now, so key thing is you obviously don't usually get alloy wheels, which in this case you don't. You get steel wheels with covers on it.
Yep.
A few things they're advertising that I think stands out. Some of the other stuff you get a standard like chrome upper grille surround, that's not really a feature.
And a DAB radio.
Yeah, DAB radio, again, all standard. You get your Bluetooth, your USB, your aux inputs, and 4 speakers, which actually all of them mention speakers, which is why I'm mentioning that. Electrically operated front windows, which, again, pretty much standard. But you do get cruise control.
They call it speed limiter.
Yeah, but I recognise those switches. Well, you did. Your eyes are better than mine, but off my car, and it is the cruise control system, which... For a car this size and...
Not bad at all.
It's the only one I've seen with it.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it has hands-free, I don't think, so...
It has Bluetooth.
Oh, it has Bluetooth, beg your pardon.
Yeah,
right, sorry about that.
It has your Bluetooth phone system. And voice command as well, which, again, I don't know if many of them do so far. Hill start assist. Now, that's something that I have on my car, and I do find very useful. If you are on a very steep hill and you don't have the handbrake and you let off the foot brake, it'll hold you for like 2 seconds just so you can find the bite and set off.
It helps, obviously, you say you don't have the risk of rolling back into someone. Yeah. It's just nice.
Very nice feature. Quite good that you just put it on the standard base car. Obviously, it's got ESP, which all cars have. Centre rear head restraint. Now, the only reason I mention that is because a lot of cars don't get that as standard.
Okay.
I know it used to be an option on the Fiesta. It's no longer an option, but it just comes as standard now. And also tyre pressure monitoring system, which again...
That sounded fairly common for a lot of these. Yeah. So we saw that cropping up quite a bit.
And auto stop start again, which is pretty bog standard stuff. So as a car, a general person, if you're just going out there, you weren't bothered about anything fancy, you get enough there, I think, if you just want a car.
I will say the only thing I don't like about it as far as the interior is concerned, I'm not really going to rank it on driving. I've never driven one. You have? What was it like to drive?
It was a car. You could never get up any speed enough to test any of the handling. It was extremely slow. The gearbox was lovely. I think it's just the same as in most Fords. The gearbox usually is quite nice.
I think one of the things that I'm not so hot on, to be honest, is I don't like the engine that you get with it, because I think compared to the 1 litre EcoBoost that we both have, it is very old school. It's a lot less powerful, and I expect thirstier, because obviously it's a 4-pot.
I would strongly suspect that in the next generation, which is coming out soon, that will be replaced with the 80 horsepower 1 litre.
Yeah, that would figure, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because without the turbo, just your standard 1 litre.
And I would also say it is looking awfully drab in there.
Yeah, it's very dated.
Yeah.
Very plasticky and cheap.
For me, obviously, I want to see what the new one comes out and what that looks like. I am looking forward to seeing that. But as the one that's on sale today, I wouldn't want to spend that kind of money on an interior that feels like it's a full generation back.
Yeah. So I would agree with you on that. And for £11,300, I think you can do better.
Yeah. So
one thing
looking forward to the new one,
is, which a lot of them have said manual. This has electric door mirrors, which...
And there are a few flashes of chrome knocking about, such as the door handles and the the bezels for.
The only thing I will actually compliment this interior on is the actual height of the dashboard, because on a lot of these cheaper cars that you do see and get in, they're very they don't feel like you're actually wrapped in a proper car. Like you can
it feels like a proper
exposed
cabin.
metal and things like that. This has none of the exposed metal or anything like that. You actually are in a car.
Which feels like a cabin, doesn't it? Still?
Yeah, which I can't knock it for. And again, it's got air conditioning and all your gizmos, which fine. But so £11,300 for that. Yeah, not too bad if you just want a car, but they do need to update the engine.
The engine's put me off, unfortunately.
Yeah, it has for me, to be honest. Next one on this. Again, I have driven one of these.
I've driven the C1 of the old generation.
Well, to be fair, I drove it in Citroen form in this new generation.
Yeah. Well, I will say it's interesting because obviously looking at the old generation of the Igo and the C1, which were very similar to one another, this new one, it starts at £9,450, so it is considerably cheaper than the Ford. I think it's better looking from the outside.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I like the little two-tone stripe it's got going on.
Looks kind of cute. Yeah. And I think the interior, compared to the C1 I had, which was like an 09 plate, is like a world better.
Yeah. Well, again, the one I went in, it had your screen and everything that you can play with, and like this, the base spec might not have that. We'll go through and have a look now. Yeah. But you get 72 horsepower from a 1 litre engine rather than 70 from a 1.2, so it's already up.
Yeah, significantly better.
And it is definitely lighter.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
One thing I will definitely comment on this, having driven one, is the clutch is horrendous.
And my generation had a terrible clutch.
Yeah, the clutch is horrendous. The bite point is so high that you're near enough kneeing the steering wheel when you come off the bite.
Which I would say, in mine was a very particular problem from back in the day. Yeah, it also had an extremely high bite point, and I'm not hugely tall, but I'm tall enough that it caused a problem with the steering column.
Well, you're not far off 6 foot, are you?
Because you say my knees will obviously have to wrap round the steering wheel to actually get the clutch to play ball. So
if you are tall, avoid that, because it genuinely doesn't work. If you're over 6 foot, I think you'll have a trouble. I had trouble on our knee in the bottom of the steering wheel, and that was with the seat in its lowest position and in my thing. But I'd fair most people who do drive them obviously must be quite small because they don't seem to bother.
I would say that probably the Ford's gearbox will be better.
It is. I can guarantee you that. It is definitely better.
The engine in this one is better. Yeah. So it's a trade-off between the two as far as that's concerned.
Yeah. Refinement-wise as well, it was slightly noisier. Again, but that's just because you don't have any of the sort of soundproofing, and while it might be plastic, it's a bit more insulation around the bare metal. So what do we get as standard on the Igo? Let's have a quick look.
So yeah, you're getting 14-inch steel wheels with wheel caps, 9-spoke. They look quite nice. Yeah,
they look all right. Yeah. Again, the Ford again had wheel trims, but it was an inch bigger. But that's just because it's a slightly bigger car, I think, and also just a bit more in price range.
You're getting an LED front light guide, so I don't know whether that. I think that's just the sort of daylight running. I think
it's the day running lights.
Daylight running, so a halogen behind it. Probably.
One thing it does have, which is very rare these days, is a space-saving spare wheel. They're normally an optional extra. You do get that as standard, which I will credit them on that because it's better than that rubbish form.
You get a long antenna.
Yeah, you get an antenna on the roof. I don't know why they've even mentioned that as a feature because it has an aerial. It has a headlight cut-off reminder, which again most cars have. It just if you turn the engine off when your headlights are still on, it tells you. It's also mentioning as a feature manually adjustable door mirrors.
Yeah.
That's not a feature. That's
Yeah, but again, one down on the Ford as far as that's
that was
concerned,
electric.
Yeah.
One thing I will say on the Ford actually is when you turn the engine off, the lights go off on their own.
Yeah.
Which is just...
Well, no, to be fair, Matt, I don't know whether mine makes a very weird beeping noise. So...
Okay, well, yeah. Man does go off, but they are.
So, interior, you've got aux and USB connector, much like the car.
Yeah, which you should hope to expect on a car these days.
Like you say, you've got some on-steering wheel sort of hands-free communication buttons.
I can already see one of them is to control a tiny little screen behind your steering wheel, which I know is there. You also got volume up and down.
Yeah.
Pretty standard. Doesn't seem to have anything else fun. You've got a blanked out square where obviously on the higher model.
I will say, I think the interior is more interesting than the Ford.
To look at, it's a bit more colourful, isn't it?
Well, it's more funky, isn't it? It's a little bit more unique.
So are the air vents actually, look quite...
As they say, they look quite stylish, don't they, in their own little
I do
way?
love this. Obviously it's got one central dial, which with your little circular screen in the middle, which obviously does everything. But I love how the speedo goes right around the outside of the big...
Yeah, it's like a Fiat 500, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a Mini, you think.
Yeah.
They do it. You also get electric front windows, which pretty much, again, standard. So what are we looking at? We've got 2 speakers rather than 4.
Yeah.
So it's 2 down on there. Again, you get your aux and connectivity. You get... not even going to mention that. It says a 3-spoke urethane steering wheel is a feature.
Yeah.
It's a steering wheel.
Yeah.
That's fine. What do we get is the comfort one. So this is probably the one that most people are going to look at. So memory function on driver's seat.
That's quite handy.
I did not know that was on there. Okay, that's good.
That is good.
Front room light. I think that just means an overhead light.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah. Manual day and night rear view mirror, which again is standard. There's nothing jumping out there.
No, but I will say, I think the memory...
Yeah, the front seat memory is very useful.
Something to consider if multiple people will be driving this car on a regular basis.
If you and your partner or something are going to be driving it, then yeah, absolutely.
So I think that is something to consider.
Some stuff it does. I mean, they're mentioning analog speedometer as a feature. It has a speedometer. It doesn't need mentioning. What's it got? So it's got rear cup holders actually. I didn't.
Yeah, that's quite useful.
More than most cars.
Yeah.
Parcel shelf again standard. Front door pockets standard. A glove box.
Yep.
And that's it. So features that you have to have on a car here are mentioned as features, like a steering wheel. But I don't... it does look fun. I'll guarantee that. It does look a lot more interesting while you don't get anywhere near the amount of actual equipment.
If I could...
But you are saving a lot of money.
If I could live with the clutch... I would probably... Well, I'd have this over the car. Well, that's it. I did, and I got used to it. So it's a case of, for me, I would have this over the Ford car, to be honest. I think the engine's better and more in line with
you say better. It did feel slower, even though it's more powerful.
Yeah.
But I think that only came down to the fact that the gearbox is horrendous, as is the clutch, that you can't...
Yeah, yeah.
It just didn't feel as it's sort of nippy. But...
Yeah, but for me, I think the iGo would probably take it over the car.
For styling, 100%. Interior is definitely more interesting, I'll give you that. And the price difference alone has done it for me.
Probably not as big and probably not quite as practical, and it probably won't feel as much of a car. No. As in, the cabin won't feel like a full-on...
Yeah.
You know, I think the car's cabin feels more like a Fiesta cabin than, say, maybe the iGo feels like a Yaris.
Yeah, although the Yaris interior isn't bad. Right, okay. We're just throwing this in as a slight little curveball because we were going to look at the VW Up, which seems to be in between models at the moment, so we only got a spec sheet on them getting rid of cars.
Yeah.
Again, I have driven one of these, but in Skoda form. They drive exactly the same. If you do want one, the outgoing model is selling off for £9,955.
Yeah.
It doesn't really give us that many features of it. But the new one coming in, I can only imagine, will be similarly priced and does offer a much better an electrical version of it.
Yes.
So yeah, for standard version, if you want one, £9.5 grand. Well, call it 10 grand.
See, I quite like the outgoing Up. Obviously, it comes with a 1 litre 3-pot, much like the iGo. A lot of the standard equipment was relatively similar, so that's good.
Yeah. One thing I will say again: lovely clutch, lovely gearbox. Can't fault them on that.
Yeah, but obviously we had one on holiday, didn't we? Well, we had. Did we have the Skoda City go?
We
on
did,
holiday?
but I drove my friends who's got one here, and that was a bit more civilized, so to speak.
Well, and I also think as well, the VW Up does a good impression of being obviously it's a sprightly little runaround, but I think as far as badge prestige in this price range is concerned, I think the Up takes it.
Yeah.
So, and it's not for silly money, it's less than the car. Yeah. Obviously, it's not as practical as the car. No. I appreciate that, but I think styling-wise and handling-wise and all the other bits and bobs, I'd probably go for the Up.
Yeah. Well, they are getting rid of these ones, which is why I think they are that cheap. But the incoming model will have to look at that when it's...
Yeah, sure. We'll swing back round to that on the podcast
when it's available.
Yeah.
Because there was no information on it at the moment, and they were just giving prices for getting rid of old stock. Because it said you couldn't even build or order one.
Yeah.
So it's just existing stock available. One we are just going to chuck in as a slight thing, because we're going to see if Skoda still built the Citigo, which it turns out they do, but they only do an electric one.
Yes.
And it does start from £16,955, which, granted, is expensive.
It's way above the other cars that we're looking at in this list.
And we will say, actually, that does include the £3,500 government grant.
Yeah, and that is when you realise quite quickly that although electric cars may potentially be the future, as far as pricing is concerned for the average consumer, I think we're still a little way off.
Yeah.
Because realistically, we're looking at this from the perspective of we want to buy a new car. We don't have a huge amount of money to spend. We're looking at about, with all the other cars, you're looking at between, say, 9 and 12 grand.
Yeah. And
obviously, if you want to go all electric, this is coming in at sort of 17, way out of the price range.
Yeah, well, it's 45 quid under 17 grand. Yeah. But again, if you add the 3.5 grand government grant on, which they will eventually get rid of, because
eventually,
they will get rid of. If you take that's nearly a 20 grand car.
Yeah,
which is a lot. But again, decent little range, and it's pretty much the same as the E-Up.
Again, I think we'll cover this in a little bit more detail when we do another sort of electric car square off. So I think
your basic electric car.
Yeah, we'll cover that right round again at another time.
So the next one we're going to look at really quickly is the Suzuki Swift.
I like the styling.
Yeah, it's a good looking little car.
Obviously, and I've noticed as well, it's a 5-door. Obviously, but they hide the rear doors with little sort of handles on the rear arches. Yeah, so much like the Clio.
Yeah.
So I quite like the styling on that.
Yeah, makes it look sleek. One thing I'll just mention, this is actually £11,075. However, they do have a promotion on at the moment which knocks the VAT off, so it's normally around 13.
Okay.
Just to put that into consideration.
This is currently on promotion. But...
So at the moment, if you're buying it now, you'd get one for 11 grand.
Okay. But obviously without that, it's the most expensive of the petrol variant, so it's putting it in with the car. Obviously, the car you can get in a 5-door variant as well. It's like this seems like
it only came in 5-door.
As you say, well, this seems like a very fair square off. Then,
yeah.
To be
so again,
honest.
1.2 like the car.
Like the car. Yeah.
55 mpg. That's not too bad. You can't complain at that. Interior wise, I'm going to say very similar.
Yeah, I would. I
very
think
similar to
nice
the KA.
Red decals that they've got going on here. I think that little lighting behind the instrument cluster is nice.
Yeah, and obviously I know you guys can't see this, but on the car it had sort of just your CD player, radio, and everything, sort of just in the middle of the dash. This has exactly the same with no screen, nothing like that.
I think it's slightly better designed. I think it looks a little newer than what the car has.
Well, this is the new shape,
so I think it looks a little newer, and obviously the controls for the air conditioning, which come in as standard.
Yeah, one thing I definitely like is the little screen between your dials, which obviously has it tells you what gear you're in, stuff like that.
Looks quite modern, doesn't it?
Yeah, very modern.
Looks quite modern.
Again, I love the little red ambient lighting.
Little red decals.
Manual air conditioning and stuff, which you'd probably expect in this price range.
I would say that the Bluetooth hands-free set is less ergonomic than some of the other cars we've looked at. Like the iGo, for example, has the hands-free Bluetooth buttons on the steering wheel sort of column next to the airbag, whereas this is sort of down the side.
Yeah.
It's a little bit less ergonomic.
Yeah. Again, does have steel wheels, 15-inch, the same as the car.
Yeah.
So that's about fine. It's got a few steering wheel controls, but it's just got mute, skip track, and mode for your little screen. That's it. Nothing too... It definitely doesn't have
cruise control. Leather, though.
It is a leather steering wheel.
It is leather,
standard,
which is nicer than the car.
Yeah, it'd be nicer to hold. So... Some of the technology-wise, again, you get your DAB radio, which you'd expect on a car these days. Pollen filter, why is that ticked as a feature?
Well, it is.
Don't you have to have a pollen filter?
I just noticed automatic headlamps.
Yeah.
That's very useful.
Yeah, automatic
That's
headlights.
very cool.
Green tinted windows, I am not sure what it means by that, other than the fact that they must... Why would you tint your windows green?
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be for. Halogen headlights, again, you'd expect it on a car this price. What I forgot, so your interior, wow, this is what I think what most people would be concerned about in a car at this price.
Well, I mean, they're not looking for a driving machine in the respect they're handling and things like that. Don't get me wrong, we will cover performance cars in this and a later podcast, I think, but for now.
It does have a remote fuel lid opener.
No,
which is just a little electric thing they put on. Nothing else has that.
Pretty snazzy.
One in the rear as well, a cup holder in the rear.
Yep.
It does mention the same things as the other ones, like chrome inside door handles, which again aren't a feature. It's a door handle.
Like a sun visor.
Yeah, it has sun visors, shock horror. Gear shift indicator. We have that, obviously, but...
Yeah, but again, that doesn't... Obviously, that comes from that nice little central display between the instruments, which looks quite modern and cool, yeah. I would say, for me, obviously, while it's on sale at the moment, obviously with the VAT taken away from it, I think it's quite good value for money for a new car.
Does it give us any power on that engine?
I mean, the 1.2 engine does... I don't know. It concerns me a little bit.
Does it have a power? Now we're at 90 horsepower. Wow.
Yeah, so obviously significantly more than the Cap, significantly more than the iGo as well.
Yeah.
As you said, do I want to buy a small 4-pot in my little city car? I would be more comfortable with an inline 3.
I would. One thing I'll just say, for an option of £400, which actually puts you into the exact price of the Kia, you can put a hybrid option on.
Very cool.
So that puts you exactly on price with the Kia.
I think that's a very cheap way to take your step forwards into electric technology.
Yeah,
actually. So if you want to make that first step, I think we'll swing back round to this one again and take a closer look at the hybrid variant.
Right, just to quickly move on because I'm just conscious of time. So we are again looking at another. So again. Big brand in the automotive world now, definitely up and coming in terms of, that's what they're offering like with the. So it's Hyundai.
Yep.
So obviously they're famous now for doing like the N ranges on cars, which are great. But for this one, we're going to look at the i10, which, again, we've seen a leaked image of an i10N, which would be cool.
Yeah.
But so this one's your bog standard basic one. So if we look at this, you get your 1 litre engine like you got in most of the other ones except the K, but this is 67 horsepower. So again, it is the least powerful of the bunch.
But that being said, I've lived with a Citroen C1 which had about 60 brake horsepower and I could still have a fantastic laugh in it.
Yeah, the good thing
it's lightweight, it's little and nippy.
The good thing about it is I've never driven one of these, so I can't comment on how they are to drive. I can't imagine it being anything too special.
I really like the styling.
Yeah, I think it's a really cute looking little car.
It's cute, isn't it? Yeah.
So the one we're actually looking at in particular is just the S. I'm assuming S is just standard. So this, at the moment, because it currently has, again, a little bit of an offer on, but it's £9,800. So it's very much in the lower end sort of your iGo price. It's also iGo sized as well, which is nice. And they do, on the Hyundai website, give you a very handy list of everything you get.
On the S, just ticked in, doesn't it?
Yeah. So 14-inch steel wheels, again, just like the...
like the iGo.
Like the iGo. It gets body coloured B-pillars, so that's exposed paintwork like you had in the C1.
And I might also add, Bob, that is something that hasn't been all that prevalent in this list up to the point.
No,
so this is quite old school.
One of only two that's had that. The iGo did have it, and this also has it. But again, I think that's where your Swift and your Kia do stand out a little bit more in the extra price.
Bit higher.
Yeah, it's a bit of extra sound deadening. You're not looking at paintwork inside, and I think that's probably what you're paying the extra money for. Body colour bumpers, which actually is sometimes unusual on cars of this price.
Yeah, true. You just often get. I think that's what adds to its cute charm. As in, we like the styling on this one, and maybe that comes into it because it has that sort of less cheap of a styling on the outside.
Yeah, I'd actually agree with you on that. Black door mirrors are standard. I don't know. I don't know if you picked a silver car, you'd still get them, but I'm guessing so because that's just what it says. It's black ones as standard, and also black exterior door handles. I think it's trying to give it a bit more of a sportier look, isn't it? Because a lot of even look at supercars, they put carbon fibre door mirrors on it to darken it in. And
one thing to note about the base model is, unlike the Suzuki, you don't get a leather strap steering wheel.
No, that's
so true. That's worth noting as well. Obviously, you get your standard 5 seats, whatever. You your usual sort of stuff.
Yeah, try.
Just noticed air conditioning does not come as standard on the S.
Okay, now that is actually interesting. So you do not get air conditioning.
Yeah, because it says air conditioning manual and it's not ticked in S. So
yeah, so that's the only car in the list that has not had air conditioning. Which
in the obviously with us in the UK, that's not a huge issue. But if you live in other parts of the world, potentially.
Well, I know South Korea, where these are made, can get extremely hot.
Although I might add, in summer, I do like having air conditioning because in the UK it can on certain days get relatively
last year we had the
warm.
record heat of 38 degrees.
You might want to get it.
38 degrees is hot enough. Yeah. So. Most of the stuff it says are pretty standard. Like door pockets, that's somehow ticked as an option.
And power steering and things like that.
Yeah, steering column adjustments, tyre repair kits. Yeah. Again, no spare wheel like the Igo had. That's the only one that's had the spare wheel. 2 speakers, whereas again the Swift and the KA of the more expensive price range had 4.
Whereas the Igo
and everything only had 2.
So this is squaring off against the Igo more. Really.
You do get your USB and aux connections, which again pretty much are standard these days. But it's just a nice little thing to have, isn't it? It has all your airbags, has all your braking assisting, immobilizers, Isofix, all your gizmos and gadgets. It does has a tyre pressure monitoring system, which nice to have, but they all have that. So I think for the price, you're not getting anywhere near as much as what you get on the other cars in this one. If you are willing to spend a little bit more, you can get your things like Apple CarPlay, cruise control, all your gizmos, but again, you start to jump up the price bracket there.
For me, if this was in a competition with the Igo, I'd probably go with the Igo, even though I know the clutch isn't too hot on the Igo.
But as well, on the Hyundai ones, again, I have sat in an i10, I've never driven one.
Mm-hmm.
The interior is extraordinarily plasticky.
Okay.
Like, extraordinarily bad. But this is a slightly refreshed version, but looking at the pictures they have of the interior, it does look like it's pure plastic.
Yeah.
Which is a common theme on these little cars, but it is what it is for the money, isn't it? Right, straight on to another one. Again, probably actually my favourite looking.
It's a good looking car, even the base spec which we're looking at.
So it's the Kia Picanto. This is the last one we're going to cover. Again, very much sort of your very, very tiny city car. What's the one we're looking at? So it's just called the One, is it?
Yeah, I think it's just called the One.
Yeah, it literally is just called the One. Very self-explanatory list here. 1-2 Zest.
1-2 Titanium Zest 3 X-Line, so on.
So again, 14-inch steel wheels, just like the other cars in this list. So your Hyundai and your Igo. Body colour bumpers again, just to put it on, so it makes it look a bit more sporty and a bit nicer. What else are we getting? Black radiator grille with silver paints around. So again, that'll darken that out, make it look a bit more sporty. Tinted glass. Seems to be a feature.
Again, as you say, it seems to be a feature, doesn't it?
But only on the Swift. I don't know why they've done it green, but this has tinted glass as standard. Multifocus reflector headlights with black bezel. That's not a feature. Day running lights is have to by law.
Yeah.
Follow me home light functionality. Oh, is that the one where you get out of the car and it stays on for a certain amount of time?
I think so. But
just so you can light up the door. It's not really a thing, is it? Automatic headlight control. It does have that.
That is good, and we saw that in one of the other ones. I think it was the
Swift.
It was a Suzuki, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Heated rear window standard.
Yeah.
Manually adjusted mirrors like the Igo, and also every other car in this list,
except for one.
Apart from the cat. Yeah. Black cloth upholstery. Again, they just give a long list of stuff, and I'll look at the ones where the one has it ticked. Electric windows like the other have, and again electric.
Cruise control is not included.
No, it's not. I was going to say, I thought that said fold away electric mirrors then, but it's not. It's key. So what have we got? Nothing at all you would not have or need to have on a car.
Yeah.
It's ticking things like sun visor, which is just a feature.
Yeah.
2-speaker stereo system. So it's very much in the theme other than the Kia and the...
Yeah, and
the
it's worth
Swift.
noting, much like most of the other, all of the other cars here, it has like a 3.8-inch monochrome display, so not a touchscreen type affair going on in the middle there.
If you do pay a little bit more, you can get a 7-inch touchscreen, which has your Apple CarPlays and whatever, but again, USB and aux like all the other ones, so you do get that. It does have a phone connectivity available as well.
Yep.
It also has the 2.6-inch monochrome cluster displays. That's obviously,
that's
in between this thing,
thing.
Trip computer, that's a standard feature. Again, all your ABS, time monitoring systems, emergency stop signaling, and all that kind of stuff. So all the stuff you have to have on a car, it has. Nothing jumping out. The interior we do have a little bit one, but they only have on their website is the GT, which does look very nice with leather seats and a big touch screen and.
But obviously, more of a budget price range. I think some of the things that will remain are like sort of the design on the vent clusters, and I think it's actually quite an interesting.
It's very
design.
quirky, isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's more modern and more contemporary, certainly than things like the car, for example.
Oh, 100%.
Obviously, I can't comment on build quality, but they do offer a long warranty.
Actually, that's one thing that this one has by far the best warranty. It's a 5-year unlimited mileage, complete Hyundai covers you for breakdowns, everything under that.
Yeah, Kia covered. Kia's got you covered.
Kia, yeah, so it does actually have that, which again, if you are in this market, it might actually be something that would sway you.
Well, yeah, because obviously that is potentially, should things go wrong, a significant amount of money that you could end up spending.
It did also mention as well, in that 5 years, it covers all your servicing as well.
That's really handy. No, that's very handy indeed.
That could definitely sway you. Hang on, let's have a look at the prices, because we didn't get that, did we? So it starts from £10,195. So in between, really.
Yeah.
And I am 99% sure if you went into a dealership, you could haggle that down.
Yeah, 100%. And as you said, I think that warranty and I think that servicing is excellent.
Well, that's worth £500 on its own.
It's interesting. So, just to sort of wrap this up, out of the cars we've looked at today, where would your money be going if you had to buy one of these?
Oh, if I had to buy one, I go for me.
I'm thinking I go as well.
You get a lot of equipment as standard.
You're getting a 3-pot engine.
Yeah, it looks the best.
Yeah.
Granted, it's not the best to drive in winter, but if you're looking for a car like this, you're not looking for driving.
No, the only thing I can complain about is the clutch, though, potentially. But beyond that, I think it's nice enough.
Again, nothing really seems to go wrong on them from what I've heard from people who have them, and you've also had a C1. I know plenty of others who've had them, and they've never really had any issues.
Oh, my C1, obviously, previous
Still
generation to this, built like a tank.
Yeah.
Seriously impressive.
Yeah. Safety-wise, they've obviously improved that quite a lot, because they have to. I think yours was only a 2-star.
Mine's questionable, yeah.
Yeah, you are the airbag.
Yeah.
But that's fine by me. So yeah, my money would go on the Argo if it was me buying it.
Me too.
But best looking, Kia Picanto.
Yeah, for me, best looking, it's either Kia Picanto. I like the i10 and I like the Swift.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with the Argo's looks either.
No.
With those LED running lights, I think it'll look quite
nothing
cool.
on the two-tone paint that comes as standard.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's it from us. Again, if you do want us to discuss any topics, leave us a comment in the links to us on any social medias below. And we'll be back again next week for another episode.
Yep, see you later.
See you later. Bye-bye.